I am live. Hi, y'all. I am live on, it's like a minute before 2 o'clock, and we are on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We promise to be on Instagram. Still figuring out the technology. Hopefully, we'll get there. But we're gonna get started, and this is I'm excited. I'm excited to be here, and I'm looking forward to a a show where hopefully you will learn a lot, or you can learn from my mistakes. Okay, it is 2 o'clock. Welcome to Getting Real. I am your host, Monick Halm. I'm so excited to be here and to be sharing, the real about real estate investing. They're often on social media, right? You see all of the success stories, you see the checks, you see the keys, you see the before and afters, you see all the great stuff. We often don't get to know about the not so great. So this is a show where we will talk about the raw, real, authentic stories about real estate investing, not for the shock and awe and entertainment, but so that I can learn the lessons so that you can avoid getting yourself into these situations. They say a smart person learns from his or her mistakes. A genius learns from other people's mistakes. So hopefully you can be a genius, learn from my ah, many mistakes. And I have this deck of cards, which is has all these quotes, and there's this one that I had just pulled out, and it said, "The difference between stumbling blocks and stepping stones is how you use them." You can't really say the difference between stumbling blocks and stepping stones is how you use them. So my goal is that these stumbling blocks for me can become stepping stones for you, um, me as well. So welcome. So today's episode, I am going to talk about an investment that I made, which I thought was going to be a great, fun investment in an up and coming neighborhood, and it turned out to be in a war zone with literally gunshots involved. It's like gunshots and fires and needles. Oh my! It was quite a roller coaster to own that. During the 2+ years that we held on to that property, there was a lot of drama that I got to experience, and like luckily, and it literally took a miracle to get out of it. And so thank you God for miracles. And I'll share about that story. But really, what I want to share that's most important are the lessons that I learned. One, most of those lessons are about what I would do differently to have avoided that deal in the first place. Um, no deal is way better than a bad deal. So I want to give you some feedback on how you could avoid getting into that kind of deal, and then a couple of lessons that I learned about what you can do if you find yourself with such a property, and what we could have done to mitigate it once we were in it. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And so let me tell you the story of this particular property. This was one of our first investments in multifamily, and I was hearing about, like you get C class, B class, and I'll just give you a brief. For those of you who don't know yet, like what that means: A class, B class, C class, D class. When we're talking about, and they'll use that term for neighborhoods or buildings themselves, but generally A class is like the newest, the fanciest building, or the highest end um, areas in a town. So think Beverly Hills, like Rodeo Drive, big fancy houses, the most chic boutiques and restaurants. Like that's A class. B class is kind of a step below that. The B class buildings are and maybe like 15 years old. They're a little bit older. Maybe at one point they were A class, but when we're talking about neighborhoods, like, they're not like the nicest, the richest, but they're nice, steady, kind of like middle class, upper middle class neighborhoods. Then we talk about C class, and C class is a step below that, very working class areas. Like you're gonna see in C class like the check cashing places and a lot of the liquor stores and laundromats and things like that. And then there's D class, and D class is the war zone. So D class is where there's a lot of crime. You might see prostitutes and drug dealers and boarded up windows. That's D class. So I was going to get like, I thought I was buying a solid C class that I could like move up into C plus, maybe even B minus. And I was trying to, and it was an area that probably should have clued me in. This was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and it was in an area called the War Zone. So just FYI, hack. If you're buying in a place that's been called the War Zone, it probably is that. And we're looking at like C minus D. D class is what you're going to be getting. So unless you have a super strong stomach for lots of crime and very challenging tenants and situations, you probably want to avoid that. That was on my intention. And I had seen another building in that area about a block away. So I'll tell you why I thought I was in a more solidly C than in a war zone situation, even though the area was called the war zone or had been called the war zone. It looked like it was transitioning. And so the signs that I saw were right across the street. There was a new Starbucks and a new Planet Fitness that had been built. So there's a shopping center literally across the street from this building with these new properties. And oftentimes, when you see those, you can piggyback off of the analysis of these big chains, because they actually have, when they're trying to figure out where to put their real estate, they do have analysts looking at the area and looking at the demographics. And when you see, that's why, there's like a new McDonald's that comes in, and then all of a sudden, like there's a Burger King and a Wendy's and like all the other fast food places like pop up right there too. It's because they're kind of piggybacking off of McDonald's real estate analysis, and oftentimes you can look at what is going in around to clue you in, like, oh, there's a new Target, there's a new this, like that. These stores are looking at the demographics and they're thinking that there's opportunity here. So there was this new Starbucks, um, there was a new Planet Fitness, and I thought, okay, well, that's a good sign that this area seems to be turning around. And there was an apartment building just a block and a half away that had been bought, had been renovated, and was getting a lot higher rents. And so I was seeing that, oh, okay, somebody had tried this in that area, and they looked to be succeeding. So there seemed to be justification and rationale for my thought that this area was up and coming. So I wasn't crazy. There was some good, it wasn't the worst decision, but there are things that I could have done better, especially with regards to this particular property. And then I'll talk about how like my due diligence could have been more thorough. But on the surface, it wasn't such a bad bet. It was also right across the street from a major hospital center, and we thought we might be able to do short-term or medium-term rentals for the people coming for the hospital. So it wasn't the craziest idea. But what happened, we got this property, and this particular property, we didn't hear until after we closed, but the night before we closed, it had actually been a shooting right at the block. right at the corner, right outside of our property. Right after we bought it, somebody actually came, that happened. They came back and shot into the property. There were bullet holes in the property. There were fire, two fires were set while we owned it in the 2 years. One Valentine's Day, the property manager came in on the 15th, and they found one of the units had been broken into, and in that unit they found I guess like maybe a homeless couple or something had decided to have a romantic Valentine's Day night. They found rose petals and hypodermic needles there. Our One of our property managers was had a gun held to his face while he was in the office there. Um, it was not fun. And what we spent a lot to put in a new fence, new security system around there. The tenants, despite us paying a lot of money to put this fence, they kept putting stones and keeping the fence open so everybody could come in and out. There was just a lot of problems, vandalism and crime in that particular building, and it was really a war zone, and it was super stressful, and we dumped a lot of money to try to fix it up, and we kept having problems keeping tenants, being able to raise the rents, to justify the rehab we'd done. And it was a property that was really struggling, and I said it took a miracle. It literally was a miracle that that helped us get out of it. I was flying to Albuquerque again, and we were going to be spending a few days just walking the property with the property managers, trying to figure out what we could do to turn things around, help the income, and then kind of get it ready to market to sell, because we wanted to get rid of this place. And as I was flying, I literally closed my eyes and I prayed and I said, God, I could use a miracle right about now. Right? And then we landed in Albuquerque, spent the day walking around and just like with the pad of paper and the calculator trying to figure things out. And then that night, our property managers took us to dinner and said, "Hey, do you ever consider selling? Because I have another client who has a 1031 exchange. He's from California. He wants to buy property. He'd be interested in buying your properties." I was like, "Oh, well, we'd be interested in selling. The price is right." So we went and we're trying to figure out. We're like, "Oh my gosh, to make this work, the price it's a pretty crazy price that this person would have to pay." But we set the price pretty high, and then to give us some wiggle room for negotiation, and we made said, "Here's the price we want," and they took it. Miracle. So that was a miracle. We sold it. We got out with a profit. Thank you, God. It was great. But that is not a good plan for investing, right? You don't want to invest expecting miracles. Plus, it was a very, very, very stressful 2 years. So, in order to avoid that, I want to share some of the lessons that I've learned that would help to um, to to avoid such an investment or mitigate. So one is you want to thoroughly research the neighborhood, and like not just drive around a bit superficial. And it helps when you have somebody on the ground that's part of the team. Neither we nor our business partner lived in Albuquerque, so we'd fly in, every few weeks, but it's not the same as being there, being able to drive around. But you want to have understand, like, really look at the crime rate around where you are. We did not really pay attention to the crime rates in that neighborhood, as a as compared to some other places. And if we had, would have probably not bought there. Economic development, you want to look at future city planning, like what's happening. It was a good idea to see, oh look, there's the Planet Fitness, there's the Starbucks. Like, that is helpful to see as well. But look at the crime, look at the school data. The better the school area you're in, the better the investment it will be. So look at great schools, Ideally, it's a 7+ school. That's going to be a solid investment. People will want to be there. Um, so then you want to visit the property multiple times and at different times of the day and night and week. So if I had to do it again, we'd go and see like what's it like, when it's dark at night, what's it like on the weekend, and get a better sense of the neighborhood. And that might have helped us to see issues we might not have seen by just going, midday on a weekday to visit the property. Um, would have spoken more to locals, maybe walked, spoken to some of the tenants, like, "Hey, how do you like this building? I like this neighborhood. What do and others around, maybe some like go into the Starbucks and the Planet Fitness and ask about the neighborhood um, and then also really get feedback from different real estate experts in the area, and ones that did not have a not motivated to sell us anything. Um, or the brokers, they want to do a deal, but I would have gone to the local real estate investor association meetings, maybe ask more questions about particular the property, the area, and gotten more input. Um, the next one was to analyze market trends and data. So really, we were looking at this. So this part we did look at. We were looking at rental rates, property values, comparative analysis. We did do that. And I think what so we were looking at the numbers and we are looking far away and we are looking at sort of superficial things. And what really would have made the difference was just more on the ground real talk from people who were there. Like, what is this building like? What is the culture like? What is the personality of this? Because we were doing everything we could to change the culture of that particular property. And ultimately we weren't able to. The cultural pull to crime was too strong. The other thing, so when you're investing, you want to be able to have multiple exit strategies. And we have multiple ways to cash flow. We did have, I said we were doing long-term rentals there, but we were trying to get people that were vets and doing some Section 8, people that had some VA funding. We were trying to get people like from the hospital, that it could be like medium term housing. The thing is, though, the hospital that was across the street, they knew they knew the reputation of that area, and so they were not really sending people there. Um, but you want to think about what are the different potential exit strategies, and again, talk to locals on the ground to figure out how to improve it. Now, if you've done all of that and you find that, oh gosh, you have bought into a property that is in it's a much tougher property and area than you considered, what do you do? So I think that what helped us uh, was to have very strong property management. Now, if we live there in town, and I think I'm a big fan of live where you want to live, invest where the numbers make sense. Um, but it's you want people on the ground that you can really trust if you're going to be investing outside where you live. And it was hard to get good property management that was trustworthy. So I I imagine it would have been a very different situation if we were living in Albuquerque. And for a while, we actually considered moving there for a short term, moving there until we could turn things around. So that was one of the things that we were ready to do before the miracle took place. We were thinking, we might actually have to be here so we can visit every day, so we can make sure things are happening. We can um, really, really manage and keep things on track. So we were willing to do that, and you may have to if you find yourself in such a situation, because they whoever's managing the property, they're going to make or break you. We had at time like there was this one property manager who came in, and she was this little woman that hid like a mouse in the office if she came in at all. She came in, and the occupancy went from in the 90s to 65% almost in like a month and a half. It just went, poof. I don't know what she was doing, but people just fled when she was there. And so we didn't wait long, but it did take a couple months of losing a lot of people having this bad property manager. Then we put in a different property manager, and this one was great. And then the occupancy went back up. So who you have really matters. You want to make sure that you have a really strong property manager, especially if you're going to be investing in one of these tough neighborhoods. You need to be very thick-skinned, very strong, but kind. All right, we want to treat people well and respectfully, but but also make sure you get paid. Make sure that it's a good place to live and to be. So those are the main lessons that I've learned from investing in that war zone. The first is don't don't invest in the war zone if you can. And some people have that as their investment strategy, right? They're going to buy in really tough neighborhoods, and they turn things around. And if that's you, God bless you. That needs to happen too. But understand that if that is what you're doing, you need to be very, very, very good with property management, and have a super high tolerance for uh, dealing with criminals. I don't know, like we had to deal with criminals, people who had, literally with guns, and you need to be able to deal with war zones. So you got to be a warrior, truly. So if you're ready to be a warrior, then that might be there. There is some could be lucrative, but it's going to be a slog. And I have found that you're better off. Buying in a better area where you can charge more rent, and you have a lot less management to do. You'll tend to have much less wear and tear on your units. You just much less drama. And so that's my that's what I hope you find is a main takeaway, is to not do that. But and then to really do great due diligence, so you understand fully what you're investing in. And so talk to people, get on the ground, and really find out. You can see a lot online, but it is not the same as driving there different times a day and talking to people to find out the real. All right. So then you can get the deal that you think you are getting. And the last lesson is to use every investment experience, successful or not, for future decision making. Right. So we learned through this experience and through a couple others that we definitely don't want to be in D class. We don't really want to be in C class either. That's not the type of investing we want to do. It's just too stressful for us. So we prefer um, B class, A class, or industrial, where we're dealing with business clients, business tenants. And for us, and real estate investing is not one size fits all, but you want to understand, like, where do you want to be and what do you like, and that's what I found works for me. And but I had to go through this experience to learn that, right? So it's not bad. Like every experience, like the card I got at the beginning. It's either a stumbling block or a stepping stone. So use it as a stepping stone. And hopefully, though, you can use my experience to decide if this is something you want to do for you. Okay, this maybe you're hearing is like, ooh, that sounds kind of fun. I'd love to be able to turn that around, and I'm tough, and I can come in and turn around this type of community, and I'm in. And if you are, great, like, go for it. And if not, hopefully you've learned how you can avoid making a similar mistake. So that's me getting real with you, and I'd love if you have any questions. Leave them in the comments or send me an email, Monique at reigoddesses.com. There we will and just say, yeah, I'd love you to address this on a future episode. And if you want to have some to be mentored and coached, then I invite you to join us in the Millionaire Real Estate Investor Goddesses program. And in that program, it is designed to help you increase your net worth by $1 million and create $100,000 of real estate revenue within 2 years or less, guaranteed. So if you're interested, again, send me an email, Monique at reigoddesses.com, and give you all the info, tell you all about it. Um, Sometimes we want to have a guiding hand when we're in this journey. It helps. So that's it. And I will see you next week for another Getting Real. Bye.